And there we are for the third edition of the Journey Management Mastery session. I'm here alone while we were expecting two people to be here. I know Jochem is on his way, so this is a proper live session. We're going to talk about journey management, look back on 2023 and do some forecasting for next year. Maybe also talk a little bit about the plans that we have for next year. I know there are some special announcements that we want to make, and at the end, well, maybe not even at the end, we'll have time for a Q&A. So Jochem will be jumping in a second, doing this real live, and we'll get them into the show as they do it on the radio. But let me start by asking to you who have tuned in right now, say hi in the chat most of all. Let me know if you've watched the previous editions of A Journey Management Mastery. This is the third time that we're doing this in 2023, the last time that we're doing this in 2023. And I'm really curious whether or not we have listeners, viewers, you who have seen this the most. So I can see your comments, and I'll leave a comment as well. Yes, I have seen them all. Let me know. Have you seen any of the previous sessions? And where are you tuning in from? I would love to know that. We have a packed session today. I know that journey management has been picking up a lot of momentum in 2023. When I look back a year from today, a year back, I don't think journey management was all on my radar, at least not to the extent that it is today. And this year seems like a rocket ship. So really curious to also hear from you. How are you doing journey management? Hey, Ernst, first time to watch. I'm listening from Amsterdam. Cool, close by. So yeah, I feel journey management has really picked up a lot of steam and momentum this year. A lot of interesting things happening, a lot of people getting into this field, seeing interests. I see on LinkedIn a lot of companies trying to get into this. So I don't know, this year seemed to be a pretty good year for the majority of journey management, journey governance, journey mapping. So let's see what happens next year. I have some ideas and predictions. Also looking forward to hear what your predictions are. If you've just tuned in and are waiting for the star of the show, Jochem van der Veer, he's going to be with us in a second, hopefully. Some family errands that came up, and this is part of doing these things live. Hey Tina, good to see you. Alberta, Canada, Edmonton. I was just on a call with somebody from Calgary, and I think that's close to you. And I think we have a special guest almost ready to go with us. Let's see. In the green room, come and join us, Jochem. You need to get out of the green room. How do we add you? There we go. Hey, Jochem, you're live. Oh, now you're muted. Yeah. I need to unmute you? That's me. There we go. Say hello to the audience.
Should work. Hello.
There we go. On a scale of
Does
1
it
to
work?
10, how rushed are you?
Well, now I'm pretty relaxed. 5 or 10 minutes ago, I was like on a scale of 1 to 10 on like 13. But I'm good.
I see you smiling. That's a good sign. We are joined by some new folks from Amsterdam, from Alberta. I was asking in the chat who is viewing, who is watching, who's listening to us, and if they've seen the previous episodes. I think we have a lot of new viewers. We have some time today, Johan, to talk about all stuff journey management, because this is Journey Management Mastery. Third time we're doing this this year. Last time. Let me go over the agenda quickly today, what we want to discuss. We want to look back on what has happened this year. One of the things that I mentioned in the announcement is that I want to know from you, what are the industry leaders doing differently? What have you seen that they are doing differently? What are the obstacles for people implementing this? What are the things that you expect will happen next year? What are some innovations that you're expecting? What can we do to accelerate this? And we'll also chat a little bit about and fantasize about what the Service Design Show and They could and potentially might do together in 2024. Did I miss anything on that list, Johan?
No, sounds good. And we should look forward and a little bit backward. Also bringing some interesting data to see on what has happened in Journeyland over the past year. And we can look ahead in what is going to happen, but also what we see, what's on our mind of executives, leaders, journey practitioners, service designers across the globe. So happy to share and relay some stories from Journeyland.
And now I'm seeing myself back, and I need to get you on the screen, and I should be able to get you on the screen by assigning you to this one. Hold on, people. I want to get Johan on the screen. Okay, let's go back to this one for a second. In the meantime, while I'm fiddling with the settings, I've pulled you up on the
screen, I think.
now you're on the screen. What I wanted to ask you is maybe do a quick intro, because not everybody might know who you are and what you do. So maybe could you share a little bit about Johan?
Sure. So right now I am the CEO of a company called They. We are a journey management solution. And basically, before we started this company, which we never intended to build, but here we are, can tell more about that. I was running design and I was helping cross-functional teams to work customer-centric, usually in like large Fortune 500 companies. Our company, which was a consultancy, got hired to help these teams bring journeys, blueprints, human-centered design, design thinking, these kind of practices and frameworks to the company so they could be part of the way they work. And that was really hard to do at scale. It worked phenomenally well on a project level, working with different teams on different like smaller projects, sometimes big projects, but they were isolated projects. But what we realized and what I saw is that the power of the customer journey, and I don't think anyone in this room will have difficulties understanding that, is only true when you can build on top of it and when you can use it continuously and you can bring more people into the fold. And there were no solutions out there that went beyond journey mapping. And Miro was still called real-time board back in the day, for instance. So we said, hey, let's build some tooling for our consultancy to make our processes run smooth. And then we had some customers that said, we love to have that, what you're building, what you're having. And our first enterprise customer got They on a WordPress backend. They didn't know that. Eventually, we went on our own stack, and now we are this is like 3 years ago. Now we are a mature enterprise-ready platform with global customers like NCR, Johnson & Johnson, Google. The big companies that are all in on journey management are trying to change the way they work, and we're building software to help these teams do that. And that is actually what we've been up to. And I've been transitioning as a designer to company builder, company leader, and my design heart obviously still beats. So now we're talking about scaling journey management across the globe. And I'm very excited to be here with you today, Mark.
Well done, awesome, Jochem. And in the meantime, I fixed our split screen pane. By the way, lighting looks good on you today. Thanks for the intro. Definitely helps. So a lot of experience with journeys in general, and I learned something. I learned two things. One thing I learned today from you is that Data was built on a WordPress backend, which is fascinating
Oh,
initially.
the first version, right?
Yeah, I can imagine.
I don't want
Yes.
to nerve wreck our customers that think like, what's going on there? Like,
No.
you want
And the other thing I learned this week from somebody else is that real-time board, which became Miro, is actually called Miro, inspired by the painter, which I didn't know. Look at that. Shall we dive into the content? Let's ask a question in the chat. I know there are a few people watching. Let us know where you're listening from. It's always nice. And if you've, on a scale of 1 to 5, on which maturity level would you say that you are with regards to journey management? 1 is, I'm just starting out. 5 is journey excellence. Would love to hear from you in the chat. Jochem, let's do a reflection. Looking back on 2023, I'm curious, how would you describe the current state of journey management today?
I think we saw a shift in perception, like where customer journey maps, journey management, if you will, used to be the domain of service design and to some extent UX, but mostly service design in a lot of companies or consultancies or agencies that you hire to do like the groundwork and then helped you to understand what the customer journey was like. Not only have we seen the push to like take all these capabilities internally so that we're not relying on external help. And for those who work in agencies and consultancies, don't worry. It's not like everyone has done that. But there is a trend where people want to build these capabilities in-house. So at the beginning of the year, we saw a rise in service designers, practitioners coming in terms of roles to a lot of the companies that we work with. That is still true. I see less of the job descriptions being service designer. And what we're now seeing is a little bit of the shift towards journey management. We even see some journey managers come up, but service design is kind of dissolving into business strategy, into product, into different types of strategic roles in the company and more embedded in the fabric of the organization. And we now see journey teams being formed. So usually that starts from service design, but now we're seeing cross-functional journey teams in a lot of these companies emerge. Sometimes cross-functional, sometimes literally teams that have an end-to-end focus on a part of the customer experience. And I think that is the bigger shift that we've seen in a lot of companies. Obviously, we work with the front runners and the pioneers in the space, but the shift that they've been making, like used to be like service design was centralized, and then you got like these service designers that would travel to different teams, or maybe for different projects, or maybe different time durations that were set into parts of the organization, where now it's more of an embedded function in certain teams. And we see journey teams being formed, and those are permanent teams.
And if you had to summarize this, what is the state, if you had to express this in 1, 2, 3 words, what is the state of journey management?
So the momentum is coming. I think that is the state of journey management. Like, I don't know if you want to look at the hype cycle, or definitely not at the peak of the hype. Like, it's still early days, but there's momentum. It's bubbling up. Like 2 years ago, when Data went off the WordPress backend, right, and we were the full-fledged solution to, or at least the first real version of Data. I found myself in a lot of executive director kind of groups explaining what journey management was. And now we don't need to do that anymore. It's more like, how am I going to do this? how am I going to bring hundreds of teams or users or people in these organizations on board with organizing around the customer journey? Can you tell me
Hmm.
how I do that? Which is a different question to like journey management. Yeah, makes sense. We're kind of doing it, but not really. Like, what's going on? Tell me. So yeah, there's an order of magnitude more skill, more experience, and also more momentum in a large organization to put the customer journey truly where it matters, and not just as a little thing in design or part of a isolated project.
Hmm. I in my notes I also had, and we didn't share notes prior to, so that's interesting. But I had written down that it seems that there is a lot of excitement at this moment around journey management. It's picking up steam. And you said momentum. I also see that dialogue is being created. People are having more conversations openly about, I don't know, how this field, this practice, this approach. Um,
How's
and
that going in your circle? Like,
oh,
can you
yeah.
share? I know you share a lot about what's
Yeah,
going on in
so
the
the
field for us.
Circle is a community for in-house service design professionals, which I host, and we meet twice a month. Journey management is a big topic there. I wouldn't say we discuss it on a monthly basis, but if we could, we probably would. The only reason why we're not discussing it on a monthly basis is that people also have other interests, but I think this is on the agenda for at least half of the group actively. Yeah.
Right.
And like you said, 2 years ago, and I even referenced the conversation you and I had just over 1 year ago. In 2022, I don't think journey management was really that big on my radar, even. Like it, I don't know what happened well, I know what happened last year, this year, but even a year ago, it feels like this year it took off. And like you said, we're just starting.
Right. Why wasn't it on your radar a few years ago? I know, I remember. I pinged you on
Uh-huh.
LinkedIn where we were just like starting out with Dado, like, hey, Mark, let's talk about templates. You had a post on templates, I think, and we weren't even mentioned. I was obviously frustrated
Exactly.
with that.
Yeah, you were mentioned, but I didn't review Dado yet back then. But there you go. That post is not that old. Why wasn't it on my radar? I think journey management as a just as a concept wasn't yet solidified or accepted or adopted. Probably the adoption of the concept that has very quickly spread through our community.
I have something interesting I can show you on this. Can I share my screen?
Let's.
So
I think you can give it a try. Okay, and I will hold on. I'm going to
yeah,
do my
share.
magic. I'm going to do my magic and assign this one to here. And if I'm not mistaken, this one, there we go. Look at that.
Nice. So we ran an analysis on like journey creation over the last 12 months. And what you will see is that on the y-axis is amount of journeys per organization. It doesn't say anything about the customer journey, right? If it's big or small or large, or a research journey, a macro journey, a
Mhm.
to-be or an as-is journey. A lot of our customers have different terms still. We got to work on that. But what you will see is interesting. Like in the middle of the bell curve, you're trailing around 100 journeys per organization. There are some outliers going all the way to like 260, 290 journeys. But this is, I think, one of the reasons why it's taking off, even in the first 12 months. And I know like customer journey creation, if you've done the research and if you have the data, if you've done interviews, you have your interview notes, you have your workshop stickies, whatever you have done, still it takes like 42 hours on average to create a single customer journey map. So I wouldn't say all these 100 in the middle times 42 hours is like what this one organization put in. wouldn't say every journey is new. They also put in existing content and reshuffle and reorganize. But the reason journey management is picking up is that over the last decade or so, we have invested in mapping out the customer experience, but it's really hard to connect the dots and start to bring everything together. So, and this is not just because of Dado, but I think this pattern is true in a lot of companies where journey creation has always been pretty high for a lot of projects. But now that we see and you start to connect the dots, like this is the data coming from Dado directly, there's an interesting pattern that you can see. Like there's hundreds of journeys coming into an organization if you're serious about setting up a management practice and unlocking it across teams.
So let's get back to this screen. Before I ask my question, where is that data coming from? You mentioned it's coming from Dado, but like, did you just ask your?
No, so this data is
yeah.
coming from a few hundred companies.
Mm-hmm.
Where we track journey creation, like, hey, I created a new journey. So how many new journeys are created over the last 12 months? And that this was part of our like internal analysis on pricing, on packaging, on understanding like, hey, what do people actually need to manage at scale? And how can we align the price that they do costs for the value they're getting so that it's a win-win. That was the analysis we did. So that's where it's coming from. But we can run all of these kind of interesting things now that there's a groundswell of journeys coming. What I really like, I was talking to one of the executives in a large insurance company in North America. And he said, like, isn't it ridiculous that we are working on programs across diabetes? Well, I also know like some of the bigger Dutch insurance companies here are doing the same. And there's a few pharma companies who are interested in that. Like, if we could only like open source all of this and say, hey, there is a standard journey for typical diseases in certain markets that everyone should benefit from solving against. I think this is where it could lead to. And of course, there's proprietary data, there's IP on a lot of these journeys. But if we truly want to be customer centric or patient centric in this case, wouldn't it be beautiful if healthcare organizations across the globe that don't necessarily get customers from the same pool start to collaborate on like source journeys, source experiences that are common across people rather than reinvent the wheel over and over again? Anyway, that is just a little
You're getting ahead of
philosophical
yourself.
rant maybe, but like
You're getting
that is where this can go to.
Yeah. Super interesting. And if we go back to what that chart actually showed us, is it took a few good years to get journey thinking into organizations, to actually start creating journeys, to start mapping. And the problem of management didn't surface until like the adoption of journeys had come to a certain level, right? You don't worry about management if you have 2 journeys. Like, you start worrying about it when it's serious in your organization and you suddenly have 100.
Right. And you also don't start worrying about journeys if you're a small company. Like, we are now a growing company and we are starting to really like, okay, if it's not in Dado, it's not true. We can't act on it. But because we've changed so much, it was really hard to keep up with all this change. But if you're a stable company, you're not growing a multifold every year, but you're growing what, 20, 30%. And you have like thousands of employees. Then the investment to really understand your journey, to get it right, and to start like step by step innovating against it starts to pay off.
That makes sense. I'm curious. So a lot has happened in the last 12 months. What would you say has surprised you the most?
Journey quality.
What do you mean?
So getting a high quality journey is really hard work, right? It's not something like,
Define quality.
yeah, well, sure. I have a high bar for quality. Like you can't have, there's two extremes in customer journey land. You would see like journeys a mile wide and an inch deep. So they cover basically the life cycle of a customer, but they don't have real insight. It's just saying like, hey, you know, especially in insurance, taking that example, I've seen a lot of those life cycle models that are not really journeys, but they say like, hey, I become a customer, or I'm looking to become a customer, I am a customer, and then, I keep being a customer, or I leave, or I renew. Like those kind of high level things used to be a customer journey. But then if you look at what's going on there, at best you can give some high level data like, hey, we have so many customers, so many churn, so many new. This is basically how it evolves. We can segment it across markets, and here's a bunch of insights that we gather. But it's like it doesn't say anything, because if you're an insurance company, your customer life cycle spans a life cycle. The moment someone turns 18, or maybe they're insured because of their parents, but let's say you're 18, you get insured. Healthcare insurance is a good example. Then until you die, you have all these different experiences, all these different needs, little interactions with the insurance company that could potentially be all expressed as a customer journey in that life cycle. So those are like, especially in the beginning, what I saw, low quality journeys where there is a good understanding of the whole life cycle, but not enough depth to really understand what the customer needs and who is the customer and when do they need it. So on the other end of the spectrum, that are an inch wide and a mile deep. It's better, but it's really hard to have all of them in your model. So if you're gonna do, I don't know, I made some medical cost, I have a bill, I want to get reimbursed. Typical journey, at least for a lot of insurance companies here in Europe. Typical journey. You can like be very meticulous about the steps customers go through. You can even be very meticulous about the channel. Some do it over email, some do it over the portal, some do it over the app. Like there's different ways of doing it. And the middle, in terms of quality in journeys, that's where the messiness exists. So having a life cycle framework is amazing, and a lot of people have it now. And having some really detailed journeys on a very tiny micro level, some have it as well. It's pretty good. But then the quality in the middle is what surprised me most. I would say also the companies that employ a lot of service designers, they have also figured out the middle ground. And that is what surprised me most, is usually like you have a big high over understanding and a few of these very detailed understandings, but in the middle, there's nothing. And I think that is where I think we still, as a whole community, have some work to do to start understanding, like, okay, on what level are we talking? What is important for the organization to align against? And what is actually happening in the customer experience? And at what level of granularity do we need to understand this to make impact? And I think there's no, and that surprised me, there's usually no focus. And of course we coach and help people and say like, hey, here's what we see with others, here's what works and here's what doesn't. But it surprised me that a lot of organizations haven't figured out a way to cover the middle ground and don't have rituals, practices, or language for that.
And covering the middle ground is having journeys that aren't too wide and aren't too deep, that are good enough. They're pragmatic in the pragmatic area of journeys.
Right. Okay, I can give an example. Like one of the automotive companies that we talk to, they have a funnel, sales funnel. And that would be like a perfect example of a middle ground. It's not the whole life cycle, it's just a sales funnel. And the detailed journey would be, I don't know, making a test drive. But the funnel is usually what people do have in place, with all the data and all the conversion rates and a complete understanding of what goes through the funnel. and ultimately ends up becoming a customer or expanding an existing customer. But the funnel is usually not the journey. So if you flip the journey from right to left, which is what they did, and layered on the actual customer journeys that people go through against each of these stages, and usually they overlap, they were able to understand some of the big performance gaps that would actually explain some of the conversion rates that were below expectations in the funnel. I think that is a great example of starting to get granular and starting to understand how your business data is translated in the eyes of your customer. But I was surprised to see many companies still needing to make that step to cover the middle ground, to not have only a few very detailed journeys on a part of the customer experience and a high level understanding of the whole framework. But I would understand, or I would expect, a lot more companies to invest in that next year. And I know most of our customers are doing that, but there are still a lot of companies that are starting up this work. So that is what surprised me, I would say.
Mm.
What about you? What surprised you the most in Journeyland, or maybe in service design land in general?
No, I had written one thing, and what surprised me the most is probably the statement made by Airbnb around putting the journey front and center again, and that got a lot of attention, which was good. I'm not sure what happened after that, but it was definitely a good moment for executive level people to sort of scratch their head and ask the question, what are we doing around journeys? I that was quite surprising to me. Pretty bold statement.
Very bold. Is it? It's interesting. They release twice a year, big features, big releases. Like it's almost like a marketing led company nowadays. With such a focus on the customer journey, you would expect more incremental change, smaller experiments, and things to do. But yet they choose to launch twice a year, big things. Yeah, I don't know. The verdict is out. I have not married the two concepts in my head. I will use Airbnb for my upcoming travels again, for sure. So I definitely feel a sense of belonging, if that's what they want to invoke. But yeah, that is a big one. That is a big surprising one. But I do love what I love about that, and that is also what we'll probably see more of next year, is companies being outspoken about, hey, we have an end-to-end understanding of the customer experience, and we are actually deliberately organizing our teams, and in their case it was like what, policy, product, and service, against these stages. That is our company model. Nothing else, nothing bigger, nothing smaller. That it is. That is it. And I think we'll see more of these examples coming, because companies do feel that that is a better way to organize their teams against the customer experience, which is nothing new.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like there's an idea, a model, a mental model how to do it.
For me, I've been part of this industry for 15 years right now, so it's interesting to see the evolution and the concepts that we've been talking about for years now finally sort of starting to get practical and operational. I think that's the thing people struggle a lot with. It's not that the conceptual idea of putting customer experience front and center is new. We just didn't have the means to do it at scale. And that's the thing that's changing a lot in the last years. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should also talk about like the macro environment, right? I'm by no means an economist, but what I'm seeing is that our beloved MPS programs are delivering shit, to put it
What do you
mildly.
see?
So we've put the emphasis on MPS for years. That was the holy grail. And I know even the creators of MPS and the big firms making sure that you can capture and manage your MPS or measure your MPS are like saying like, guys, this is not the only thing you should be building your company towards. And yet in large companies, bonuses, promotions, and targets are set against MPS.
Mm.
And it turns out, we're going into macro, we all know the customer experience, like focusing on the customer experience and delivering value for your customers, making your customers happy so they want to stay longer and buy more from you, is a great strategy. But because NPS is not the only measure for it, a lot of CX teams, and therefore also people in adjacent roles like service design, are under a lot of scrutiny right now. Because, hey, our NPS is dropping, or like our NPS program promised all these mountains of ROI. Where is it? What's happening? It's now a macro shift. People are tightening their belts. And it isn't clear that the investments made to improve NPS are actually paying off in terms of revenue. And I think that is another thing that I've seen over the last year shift, is that because that's not true, a lot of teams are looking for alternatives, how to actually link experience to revenue, to more
Mhm.
loyal customers so they stay longer and buy more, especially in the large organizations. That's mostly the sustainable strategy for growth, is like get more from your existing customers, do more for them, give them more value, so they will be able to pay more for your services or products.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, let's maybe officially transition into doing a bit of forecasting, Johan. What do you think, looking into 2024, needs to happen to adopt or accelerate the adoption, not to adopt accelerate the adoption of journey management and journey governance?
So one thing is essential, is that you need to be able to tie your business goals to the work that you're doing on the customer experience. Because way too often, we still see it in a lot of companies. There's like 2, 3, maybe 4 different teams working on the same research, or working on from the same research on similar solutions with slightly different variations. So there's a lot of double work. And then there's a lot of other teams working on other solutions, and a lot gets shipped, a lot gets delivered, a lot of improvements are made. And none of that actually ties into like the higher level business goals in the right way. And I think there's a lot of emphasis now on making that transparent. So a lot of companies start to trickle down their whole OKR tree all the way down to the individual contributors in the company. But it's really, really hard to do at scale. Like if you're a
Mm-hmm.
100-person company, that's easy. Or like, let's say complicated, but you can solve it with a bunch of technology and some processes. But if you're 10,000 people, or if you're the NHS, who have like 1.2 million people working for them, like that starts to break down. And I think that is, in large companies now, a big problem, like how to link what we're actually working on, because the work we do is highly cross-functional, back to our business goals. So that
Mm.
is one thing that we'll see more predictability, but also more focus on, like literally bring the data in to your customer journeys, bring the whole perspective in, and then tie your opportunity solution work to the goals you're setting out to achieve, rather than just a nice presentation. Oh, we improved something, but we don't know why.
Exactly. Yeah. So making and this is also probably going to be painful for some, making transparent how the thing that you're working on is contributing to where the organization is going or what the priorities are within the larger organization. So very empowering, but also maybe there will I can see this running up against some barriers and obstacles where people have to justify their work, which is a
In
good
the
thing.
end, a
Yeah.
business is about generating revenue, right? And if you work in government or nonprofits, of course, it's different. But you have a P&L, and you have to focus on making ends meet for your customers, for your users, for your citizens, for your patients. So in the end of the day, the only way to do that is to actually bring it back to your business
Hmm.
goals.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, again, like that's nothing new, but I think like what our customers are also now seeing is that, hey, hang on a minute, we've invested in journey management. Oh, now what we actually need is more governance controls, because some things aren't supposed to be available to everyone because we're a public company and it's just like legally not possible. But also, now that we have all of this data, now that we have all of this management processes in place, well, now let's tie it into operations and like
Mm.
actually start driving this. And this is really cool because this used to be the domain of process mining, right? Like let's squeeze a little bit more out of what we currently have. And now all of a sudden we flip the script and say, no, actually experience, focusing on the customer experience, giving them more of what they want and what they need is the right strategy. But now actually you have a way to pull it off versus maybe a process kind of approach where, because you have full control of your internal processes and data, it's easier to improve. Now you can actually start to improve the hard thing. So I think that is what we like to see and what our customers are for sure investing in for 2024.
Hmm. Interesting. Um, so
Where's your
again,
mind going?
well, I mean, I'm trying to summarize this again. Like, what do we need to accelerate the adoption? And that is to be even more explicit about linking the work that we're doing to business goals. Is that a good summary?
Yes,
Mm-hmm. And
that's a very good, and
yeah.
it's really hard to do, but breaking it down into smaller chunks, and even if you can't influence the big revenue number, right, or the churn strategy or churn prevention strategy your business has, there is a smaller goal that you
Mm-hmm.
can do and impact and track a metric against that you will be able to improve as a journey team, as a service design team for
I'm
your
not. I'm
business.
not. I'm not an expert in any means, but this to me this starts to sound like portfolio management. And again, I'm on a very slippery slope here because I don't know anything about portfolio management, but where people manage the products, the markets, and see how everything fits together, you could sort of have a very clear overview of all the initiatives that you're doing across the entire business that are contributing to, again, the things that you set out to do and said that
Yep.
you would do.
Yeah, and in a lot of organizations that is in place, but it's usually part of like a skilled agile framework
Mm.
where the portfolio typically consists of the digital touch points, the digital products, platforms, and the things that you can actually measure and therefore have control over. But yeah, I like that. And that is also like one of the bigger plays for where we want to go is, if you do portfolio management on your experience,
Mm-hmm.
you should be able to think and act and unify all your data on the customer journey level. And again, like those very like mile deep, inch wide journeys, but also on the macro level for your customer journey framework. Like if your whole organization can do this and unify it across markets, yeah, then you can build the portfolio layer on top of that and say, hey, how is my acquisition journey in Germany versus the one in Italy versus the one in Canada? Are there learnings? Can we emulate? Can we bring a structure to it? Can we share resources? Can we bring things like a center of excellence that creates building blocks for all these countries to use and to tap into? Like all of these things become possible, but I don't think like that is like next quarter or next year, maybe even. Like we need to build towards that. Portfolio management today, like 20 years ago, that didn't exist, or like it had a
Mm-hmm.
different name, but that is actually what you're now seeing with tools like Jira Align, where people go and bubble up everything from all these different organizations. But it's still focused on a part of the business and not the whole, or at least not the customer experience. Let's put it that way.
That will also be interesting to see who's going to own this customer experience part, because portfolio management is going to be owned by something or somebody. The initiatives around digital transformation are owned by someone or somebody. Where is journey management the customer experience eventually going to sort of settle down? Where are we going to agree upon that journey management needs to sit within the organization?
Why not with the chief journey officer? We don't have anyone yet seen to become a chief journey officer, but hey, 10 years ago, we didn't have a chief customer experience officer either, right? And now we have CXOs all over the map. They only experience.
Yeah, it's a good.
But it's usually like experience, insight management, data. It's not really the customer experience because they don't own how it's built, how it's delivered, or how it's changed. They own the data piece of it. So my bet would be in 10 years from now, the chief journey officer would have the journey org underneath her with all these different journey teams that are highly cross-functional, but designed to stay. So maybe
it's on record. It's on record. So in 10 years, we'll go back to this episode.
Yeah.
What excites you the most thinking about next year?
So two things. One is obviously the possibilities with AI. I mean, all the journey work we're doing is highly qualitative. We just talked about data in many different ways, but qualitative data is just as important. So pushing that further and making sure that there's tools available so that you can actually work with heaps amount of your qualitative data, your insights, in a way that is actually usable for people, which it today certainly isn't. Even with the best like research repository kind of tooling, it's still manual work and hard work. So that is what excites me most, is like getting capabilities to people to bring all of it together, but also start to do analysis work on all these journeys. But if you look at a customer journey, it's always like from left to right, the customer experience, from top to bottom, different lanes. And then everything is connected across all these journeys, data, insights, opportunities, personas. So if you can run AI in it, you can uncover things that a human takes weeks maybe to uncover in minutes, in seconds. And that is a really interesting approach, especially in large, complicated organizations, to find insights you can't find anywhere else. So that is what I'm excited about, to build more of that. I don't know if you know or remember, like we'll launch Journey AI to the public in January. But this is exactly what it will do. Bring all your qual together, do the grunt work for you, and have a final yes, no from a human, so that you can start managing change rather than doing all the hard work. So that's what I'm excited about. And the other thing is, it's more technical, but we're going to go and see a big push into data warehouses, into data marts of companies where their data teams actually can start linking their queries or building queries, which they already do, but actually start to bring all these queries live into their journeys, into the journeys the CX, the service design, or the product management teams are actually building. So they get the operational data live into it, which is a big endeavor that we're undertaking. But having a visual layer on top of your data warehouse that speaks journey, that is a really cool thing that we are going to ship.
I think I need to go back into my archive, but I think I have a video from 2 or 3 years ago where I said, and I have to double check, but something like the customer journey is your customer. The customer journey is your experience dashboard, something like that. And the journey, when especially if it's fed with live data, it's going to be like a dashboard, right? You're going to see the health score or the health of your journey, the customer experience, in real time, live. And to some extent,
why didn't you start a product company, Mark? You were onto something.
I had one, and then I ran away. No, but you all, of course, already see these kind of dashboards, especially around NPS and stuff like this. But this is going to be far more interesting. When I was thinking about this question, what excites me is next year I would love to hear more stories from people who are going through this journey on a meta level. So the companies and the professionals, the practitioners who are trying to implement this, and all the challenges that they are running into, and the small wins, the successes, and just being able to not have a theoretical discussion about what this is, or seeing some polished presentations, but actually, the messy side of doing and implementing and bringing this to scale.
Are you going to push it in your circle? I know you are going to be the guinea pig of your own experiment here.
To get those stories, you mean?
No, I mean, like, you're going to set it up for running your circles in a better way, right? Put the journey of the service designers in your circle in the...
That might be a very interesting experiment. Yeah, that's definitely something that I'm thinking about, and that could be a journey, a story worth sharing. So the idea would be to try to set up journey management and governance from the ground up for the community that I host, treating the community as a service towards its members. And then I don't have a journey in place. I don't have journey management in place. What if we would start from scratch and build that out in the open? I think that would be a very interesting experiment.
Yeah, I love that. And I really like that. That's also what I'm excited about. If you look at the possibilities of bringing people into the fold, like your customers, in this case, the circle members, right? You want to learn from them. You want them to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
You are lucky that they know what a customer journey is, right? If you are a pharma company and you are serving people who have diabetes, then you can't ask everyone in that group to like participate with you on customer journeys, right? That doesn't work. But your members can. So there's a lot of learnings, I think, for like, hey, I would love to do it this way, or get some insights here, or contribute there, which is like super nice to see play out.
It would be a playground. Yeah, it would be a playground for these professionals to actually craft and co-create this service together.
But you know what we actually need as a whole, as a whole domain, is like align on the language that we use.
Let's just use English and then forget about it.
Okay, good. Yeah, we're done. No, I mean, like
what are we missing? Yeah.
In revenue, in marketing, in sales, there's a lot of standards, different ways of doing things. That's fine, but there's also a few things that are so common and so well known. And I think in journey management and in service design, we don't have that unified language. We still talk about the same things on different levels. Like what is a customer journey hierarchy, like a life cycle? How do you break that down? Do we talk about macro journeys, micro journeys, nano journeys? Or do we talk about management maps? Do we talk about project maps? Do we talk about to-be journeys or as-is journeys? How do we segment? How do we think about personas? How do we think about opportunities, solutions, goals, KPIs, metrics? Like all these things are kind of defined. But even if you look at Forrester, they talk about the journey atlas. Like, yeah, maps, atlas, it all makes sense, but it's kind of like also not really what it is. Like we call it journey framework, which people seem to really like. Well, like if there's a better word for it, let's give it to that, right? I think there, as a whole, we can, do some work to get the unified language out, I think.
And I was thinking, whose role is that? And I was my mind was going to academia, and then I thought, no, probably not. This is going to be decided by the community.
Practical. It must be practitioners, people working in companies, managing journeys, working with journeys to align people and get the journey dashboard in place, right? So that their board, their management team also thinks in the customer journey when assessing the data and looking where to make investments, right? That's what we're after. Academia are like by no means regretted here or discarded here. We need them. But I think that is more on the scientific piece of like, what is actually the impact of this? Like, what is the economic impact of putting your customer journey at the heart of your operation, which is another interesting angle to see play out. I think that will be a wonderful place for scientific research.
Hmm. I want to give a shout out to everybody who's still with us. Have a think about if you have any questions for Jochem or me, and add them in the chat. I'll ask Jochem one other question that I have on my list. In the meantime, you can start typing, and then we'll take a few minutes to go over any comments, questions, feedback, remarks that are there. So the one
We should
thing that
do
I
we should
had,
do one actually. Like we got this was interesting. We obviously have the journey management mastery like visual that you so nicely created with our black belts around our bald heads and everything, which was never intended. But we had someone actually saying like this does not feel culturally inclusive in a way.
insensitive,
So
culturally insensitive. Yeah.
yeah, culturally insensitive. So I just wanted to call that out that we heard you. It was not our intention to offend anyone. It was just a nice nudge towards getting the black belt in journey management and journey mastery. So in 2024, we'll change visual style for sure. We'll make it a little bit more neutral to not offend everyone. So apologies there. And just wanted to put that on the record as well. I'm sure you're okay with that as we chatted, but maybe some other people found it offensive as well. So, Mark, we need to be careful. Now we're reaching more people across the globe that could be seen as weird. So let's not try to make that mistake again.
Thank you for pointing that out, Jochem. Final question for you. What are you curious about if it will play out next year?
Ooh, what will play out? All the predictions that we're having? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, in general, what's the one thing that you're just curious about? If AI will be able to deliver on its promise, or is it something else?
As with all these things, making the biggest plans is always exciting. And then when you've hit them and you're looking back, it feels like so obvious in hindsight that we should be doing a review of this video. But I think like if we're seeing this play out, that is a good thing. That is a great thing. And then we'll have another conversation in 12 months from now. It's like, okay, so how does this space is gonna evolve, and what will we'll see next, and how are new things that we haven't even considered possible actually playing a role in that. So I think it's going like really, really fast right now, especially on the AI front of what is possible, that it's hard to predict what the impact will be. So I don't really have doubts on like, will it be 2024 another big leap forward in journey management and putting the customer journey in all these companies and having people actually link their business goals to the value they're creating for their customers. But it's more like when this is taking off. It's like, is this a new field? Are we there yet? What is next for 2025? How are we seeing this play out? I think it will be more of that of a feeling. It's not like, hey, we put a stick in the ground at the end of the year and then we're going to have a bottle of champagne and celebrate and look back on like, whoa, we did it. Like, I don't think that will be the feeling, at least not for the next decade or so. And all of a sudden there will be a whole field of journey management, just as normal as product management is today, which also took quite a while to develop. And then it will feel so normal that it was like, what did we do before? So that is my feeling. And it has been my feeling over the last few years, building this company and building out the market and seeing how people are actually doing this in all these different companies and bringing this to life. It's never finished. And it seems everything is trailing in the right direction to finally have a way to be truly customer centric. So that is yeah, maybe like not what you expect me to answer. You want to say like, yeah, this is what I see, but I think that will be a natural progression. We'll see, and
nice.
You'll feel it. I think that is the best way to put it.
Cool.
What do you think, Mark?
Well, I'm curious whether or not if this starts to take off even more, and we start getting board level buy-in on a larger scale, will we have enough and the right people to actually deliver on this? Because if this starts to take off, and we're already seeing the signs. This could go really, really fast, and then uh, you're going to need armies of journey managers to actually pull this off. So that's the thing I'm curious about, and not just the people, but also, like you said, the supporting structures and the processes, like putting those in place. Um, I think there is a serious risk within the next 1
I
to
think we're
3
losing you,
years.
Mark. Can't hear you.
You can't
Or am
hear
I the
me?
only one? Maybe the whole
I
YouTube
think
is
you
live.
should be able
Just
to.
me.
You should be able
Yeah,
to
now
hear
it's
me.
back. Perfect.
All right. No, I think there's a serious risk in the next 1 to 3 years that you mentioned the hype cycle. It might gain so much popularity that on the short term, organizations might actually be struggling to put this in place and implement this.
Yes, but this is also the good thing and the flip side of service designers. Organizations in your organization that are already familiar working with customer journeys. Everyone can think of the customer journey. Everyone knows what it is, kind of. So it's not really hard to bring people into the fold. It's our job to make it in a right and structured way. And we see in large organizations there, not everyone is that familiar with customer journeys, but if they can bring their piece of the work into it and we hold them and make sure that they have a foundation to build on, that is why I'm not worried about it. Of those armies of journeyman, it's just a natural progression of working. Just as agile was this natural progression of a better way to develop, I think journey management is just a better way of business management, and more people will get excited once it starts to deliver results and it's clear how the path from like insight to opportunity to implementation impacts your KPI or your goal. And I think that is a nice way to tie it together. So I'm not worried. I would like to see that though. We still make money out of seats expansion, so it's fine. But I think the real thing would be here to really see truly journey-centric organizations end to end come to life. That will be the cool thing to see next year.
Curious. Let's see. I'm sure we'll find a few examples. Let's go into a quick Q&A round, Johan. We have a few minutes. Ernst asks, and I should be able to put this on screen somehow. Yeah, there we go. How do you orchestrate all the high, lows, low, high, and middle journeys?
This is a quick fire round.
I know. We maybe want to direct to a different recording, but just give a 2-minute answer.
So the best way to do this is invest in some rules in your company. Like one of the energy companies in Germany, EnBW, one of the big energy companies over there, they have installed a very, very simple rule. And that's like, there can't be an epic on a roadmap that is not linked to a journey. And because that's true, what used to happen in these portfolio management kind of style companies, it's the way the shortest job first, or it's like what the manager inputs is true. So there was a lot of like emphasis on the roadmap, but now they have a rule. Well, there can't be an epic on a roadmap if there's no link to a journey. So your journey must be in place for the epic to make sense. And that actually helps people to do everything that they're doing to align, to create, and to understand the customer needs in a customer journey. And then be able to put the epic, submit the epic, and make sure that it gets into their prioritization rituals. So I think that's the fastest way I can answer, by giving this anecdote or example, because it doesn't matter if you have like a tiny journey that has like an inch wide and a mile deep, or like this bigger journey that has a more granular, more abstract view. I think that is the easiest way to do it. And the other one is be deliberate about the levels. From day one, don't think about high level and tiny detailed level. Like be very specific about, hey, what level are we? How do we define beginning, end of each of these journeys? And is that consistent with the level that they are on? We can go into details on this. I mean, for an hour or so.
Maybe in another session. Yeah, well, yeah, that would be, where does it start? Where does it end? That's one of the classic questions. Yeah. Let's leave it at that. I hope this was already helpful, Ernst. And if not, then there is so much other content that we have from this year that you're definitely going to find some additional food for thought. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A, Johan, so this is going to be a quick wrap-up from our end. Do you have any final words of wisdom that you want to share?
Ooh, final words of wisdom. Nice. I think I would say ultimately pulling journey management off in an organization is all about balancing. You want to be complete, you want to be factually correct, you want to have all these journeys and all this understanding, while you also keep your business and your stakeholders and your management happy. And I think sometimes it's okay to cut a few corners, to start inside out, or to do a workshop journey where you don't have the customer interviews done, to at least be able to bring everyone along on the idea of the customer journey. So my words of wisdom, which I wasn't expected to give, is like, please be mindful of the balance, the delicate balance of being factually right and generally correct with the customer journey.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up for the third edition of Journey Management Mastery. Thank you, Johan. I'm very excited to see how our journey continues into next year. We did a lot of things we didn't anticipate to do at the how we started. A lot of improvised and organic content things. So I'm sure that's also to some extent going to happen next year. Thank you for being with us on this session. I'm going to wish you a very happy end of the year and hope to see you back in the next one.
Mark,
so
thank you for being a true partner, for getting the journey management service design community on fire. It's a pleasure, and well, we won't be back with black belts on our heads next year. That's certain. But I'm sure we're going to be back with more journey mastery and some other formats that we have created for you. So yes, very excited to do that. But for now, enjoy the winter holiday, the winter break, and see you on the other side of the year.
Bye-bye.